Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue our journey with Darcey and Stacey. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. Let's see if anything of interest comes out of my mouth as I watch the show.
Hey, Dad.
Hey, how you doing? See you making tacos?
Yeah, we're gonna do tacos. The kids love them. My dad is in China most of the year. He's been there for 24 years. But he comes home about twice a year for about 2 weeks at a time. He came home for the holidays and has extended his stay.
Oh my God. So there's so many things to react to. One is fantastic. So we get to actually meet their father. I cannot wait to get some data on him and their relationships. The other thing here is that they're filming and they're like, oh, there's this new coronavirus in China. So this is situating itself in time. I was wondering when we were going to start seeing TV shows produced during the pandemic. And so maybe this will actually extend into the pandemic, presumably so. I don't know. Let's watch.
We're really rusty. Remember we used to play every day?
How many years ago?
92. High school. Yeah, last 2 years of high school, played every single day. We followed tennis. It was our thing. We were shy kids because I always moved around.
Was that a problem?
No. Loved that we moved around. I feel like we learned a lot growing up. And, where do we get to go now? It's like an adventure. Journeys, different journeys. At least we had each other, day, so every time we were new in school.
Interesting. So we're learning a little bit more about Darcey's childhood, in which she was moved around from school to school. Now, this can have a profound effect on one's personality. It's often ignored by parents and society. It's like, kids will get over it. Kids don't usually get over it. The issue is that when you're, say, in the second grade, and it takes you a while to get to know your classmates, you start to get a little comfortable with them, and then you get ripped away from that and placed in another school, and you're the new girl. There's a lot of problems that arise for kids in this situation. One is that you're now the new person and you're scared and you're the outsider, and you might not ever actually become the insider. I grew up in the same community my whole life, from the age of 2 until I was 22. And I never had to be the new guy in school. And there's a girl that I went to school with from 3rd grade to 12th grade. So she entered our school in the 3rd grade. And to this day, I still consider her to be the new girl. Because that's just my vision of her, because she was the new girl in the 3rd grade. And so she's always been the new girl. Anyway, so the point is that this can be it can be very hard to integrate into a system, a social circle that's already been established. And when you're frequently the new girl, then that can be very scary. It could also make you just kind of give up and just be like, you know what, why develop relationships if I'm just going to move next year and have to give up all those relationships? It's too painful. So I'll just be over here and I'll be eating lunch with my sister because I know I'm always going to be with her. So maybe there's that. And maybe that's why the two of them fight a lot too, because they just don't have anyone else to be with. The other thing that happens is there's this notion of, and it's not rational. So let me describe another situation that is more commonly understood. When kids go through divorce and their parents are divorcing, it's very frequent for the kids to blame themselves. 8-year-olds, 5-year-olds, sometimes 13-year-olds. When their parents are getting divorced, the kids will think, if I was a better child, then my parents wouldn't get a divorce. They sometimes believe that's the entire reason why their parents are getting divorced, or maybe kind of at least a major factor. I'll never forget, I was working with a family once and the parents were going through a divorce, and I was talking to the kid. I think he was, 7, 8 years old. And eventually we got to this place where he was like, well, yeah, and he said this total matter of fact. He's like, well, my parents are getting a divorce because of me. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, my parents, they're getting a divorce because I'm a bad boy. And I'm like, what's going on? He's like, well, one day my dad told me to mow the lawn and I put it off. And later that day, my dad came downstairs and said that he was leaving and moving out and that my parents were getting a divorce. So if I was a good boy and had mowed the lawn, my parents would still be together. Now, us as adults understand that's ridiculous. Why? Because we're adults and we understand how adult relationships work. 8-year-olds don't. 8-year-olds see the world completely selfishly and the world revolves around them. And if they don't see it, it didn't happen. And of course, the 8-year-old kid never saw the fact that the parents were slowly hating each other and falling out of love for 15 years. The kid didn't see that. So when you move from school to school, there's an irrational conclusion that kids can sometimes come to that all my friends are now behind me. Why is that? Well, it's because I'm a bad girl. If I was a good person, I would still have contact with those people. Now, of course, that doesn't make any sense because the kid is the one being dragged away by the parents from that school. But it can feel like it's my fault. And then, of course, when you go to the new school and everyone is excluding you, either because of bullying or they just don't know you very well, or you're the weird twins that are always talking to each other, then again, you can come to this irrational belief system that you are inherently unlovable, you're inherently rejectable, you're inherently abandonable. And there's something inherently wrong with you as to why this is happening. So I wonder if that is part of the equation that contributed to Darcey's personality, and Stacey's, by the way. And this could play into their behavior with regards to dating people abroad in other countries. This is really a stretch, but many of their relationships were long distance, maybe when they were growing up, because they were moving around a lot. And so maybe they interpret love as something that you do from miles and miles away. I don't know. Maybe we'll find out more moving forward. But anyways, let's rewind that and we'll watch that again, because I think that's a pretty important detail.
It's like an adventure, journeys, different journeys. At least we had each other, today, so every time we were new in school.
You know, if you cut that underwater, you won't cry.
Oh, you're gonna.
Okay, so we're seeing some interesting parallels here. I don't know if this is relevant or not, but she is trying to please him in a certain way. Now, one might say it's rational to do so, but he raises this question of, was that a problem? And it raises this tension, right? And at least in this single behavior we saw, she's like, no, everything was fine. It was great. It was an adventure. Everything was positive. That can't possibly be true. I just cannot imagine that it was 100% positive that they were moved from school to school. The next parallel we see here is that the dad is critiquing the way she's cutting something with a knife, hearkening back to the cut on the bias. Is that what she was saying to Jesse?
You're gonna say cut it on the bias.
No, you cut it underwater, you won't cry. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah.
Oh. I don't care. I cry all the time.
Again, this is just total speculation, but when we experience hurtful behavior or annoying, aggravating behavior from our families, we tend to perpetrate it later in life, but we don't know we're perpetrating it. Think, everyone out there, just as a thought exercise, think about your siblings, your parents, and think about the most annoying thing they did to you when you were growing up, whether it was being critical of you, ridiculing, humiliating you, being aggressive with you, ignoring you, something along those lines. Take a second to think about one or two things that really annoyed you that they did to you. There's a good chance that you do that same thing to other people and you don't even know it. Now, many of you are self-aware enough to say, oh no, I definitely know that the annoying behavior my mom did to me, I now do to my daughters. But if you're not aware of it, you might not know it. And so I wonder if, that statement was stupid. If you're not aware of it, you might not know it. Darcey might have this same issue where her dad might, this is again just total speculation, might be critical of the way she cooks and, very domineering in that way. And then when Darcey saw Jesse doing that, because she was a little annoying in that situation, I would say. I would say she was going a little far, because the event was that Darcey and the girls, her daughters, were going to get to know Jesse. One would think that Darcey would say, like, well, I'll let Jesse kind of cut the meat the way he wants to, because I don't want to rock the boat in this moment, because my main goal here is I want the girls and Jesse to have a good time. So if Jesse cuts the steak wrong, it's not a big deal. But Darcey really laid into him. Now, it did not justify Jesse's reaction. Darcey was like a 2 out of 10, and Jesse was like a 9 out of 10 in that situation. So I want to be clear about that. But anyway, just more data as we watch.
I love my family, and I love my daughters. I love my kids a lot. Darcey and Stacey are very complex. The fact that they're twins makes it complex. When they were first born, they were both wanting attention at the same time, but you could not favor one over the other. The older they became, the more complex it became. Harder, harder, harder.
Okay, interesting. So from the dad's point of view, and I was talking about this earlier, from the dad's point of view, the girls were too demanding for attention. Now, that's not usually what I conclude when I analyze families or relationships. Usually what I'm going to say is the only reason why kids are being demanding is because they're not getting enough love and attention. If you give kids enough love and attention, they don't demand it anymore. There's a certain satiation point where they just stop asking for things. And if they're continually deprived, then they're continually demanding for those things. So that would be my guess. I don't know, but maybe we'll get more data on that.
They're both loving, and they're both stubborn. But Darcey is more demanding. When she doesn't get what she wants or she wants something, she's very fiery. Stacey has some of that, but she knows at some point she can turn it off. Darcey is very hard to turn off.
My hypothesis about this is that for whatever reason, when they were even a year old, the parents saw them as slightly different. Maybe there was a slightly different epigenetic personality temperament when they were 1 year old. Maybe Darcey was just a little bit more stubborn or a little bit more demanding, like a 1% difference. And because maybe they weren't parented well enough, and again, I don't know, with enough love and attention, it starts to exaggerate that difference. Why is that? Well, for Darcey's position, because she feels deprived, she might become, her solution is to be very demanding. And she gets love by being the demanding one, by being the one who is frequently creating drama with her emotions or something. And so she actually gets attention because that's her place in the family. Whereas for Stacey, maybe she learned, well, the way I get attention is to not be like my sister and to be more easygoing and to be more pleasing to people. That's my role in the family. And so it'll look like, well, something's wrong with Darcey. Why is she so demanding? Well, we have the good girl that is so nice. Well, often when you drill down on the real experience of the good kid, you find that they're deeply angry and deeply upset. Not always, but often. So I'm running on the hypothesis, unless I find data that contradicts this, which we likely will find moving forward. There was something that made it so the parents could not give the kids enough love and attention. Darcey resorted to demanding, and Stacey resorted to being very pleasing, and they each got a little bit more love and attention because they occupied these unique spaces. But both of them probably did not get enough love and attention. It's just a guess.
But girls are still at school. I think mommy's gonna come over for dinner too. My dad, he's there for everybody. He's mentored us throughout life and protected us. Which is why I feel like I need to tell him something about Florian. He isn't gonna like it, but he needs to know. There's something that I have to tell you about Florian. Recently there was some not so good news.
Okay, so Darcey's about to break some news about Florian, Stacey's fiance. But another memory just came to my mind that we learned from previous seasons was that Darcey and Stacey had an older brother, I believe, who was very protective of the girls and has died. And they went to his grave and they talked about how, if I remember right, there was difficulties that they had vaguely referred to in their childhood, that the older brother was a buffer for them, and the older brother really was required to take care of them in a lot of ways. And so I wonder how that fits into the broader story of their family of origin.
I don't always tell everybody about my personal life. I mean, my dad's kind of like that too in high school. He eloped with Judy, his second wife, and didn't tell anybody. Only lasted a couple years. After my mom's divorce, he's been married a couple times. Right now, my dad has a fiance, and she's from China. We like foreign men, and he likes foreign women. Maybe we get it from our dad.
Okay, another data point that maybe they are following in his footsteps. Maybe that's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing. It's hard to know. But we just heard another little detail is maybe, and this often happens in families, when you have issues, they'll become more polarized. But even in healthy families, you'll see this where even with twins, you'll find that one sibling will take after one parent mostly, and another sibling will take after another parent, particularly when there is a lack of enough love and attention, because what each sibling subconsciously or even sometimes will explicitly state this is, look, I'll get dad's attention and you get mom's attention because there's not enough love and attention coming. So let's just specialize. You'll get all, we'll stop competing for dad's attention. You got dad, I got mom, and then we can be more safe moving forward. We both know what we're supposed to do. I won't go for dad's attention and you won't go for mom's attention. I don't know if that's what happened in this situation, but I wonder if Stacey did that with dad and Darcey did that with mom. Because certainly the dad comes across as at least trying to appear like more level-headed, and maybe he is level-headed. And Stacey appears to be more quote-unquote level-headed in comparison to Darcey as well. And maybe the mom has a lot of volatile emotions, wears her heart on her sleeve. I don't know. Let's find out.
All right. They're laughing. It's a good first coming. Lock Your Number was like a fun summer jam kind of song that we did. That was the year that Jesse and I broke up, and it was like an empowerment, kind of like a fun thing to do.
As a musician myself, I think it's fantastic that they recorded a song. That's just amazing.
A few months ago, some pictures surfaced online of Florian and another woman. My heart dropped. I called him up right away, but he told me that nothing happened, that she just kept wanting to take pictures with him and make it look like they were a couple when she knew we were together. He blocked her and hasn't talked to her since, and he promised me that nothing like this would ever happen again.
So his story is that she was wanting to take pictures with him and make it look like they were together when they were clearly not together. Those pictures don't look like friends, but maybe it's true. There's one picture where he looks like he's naked in one of the pictures, and they're in bed together. But sometimes friends take those kinds of pictures together. But I will say that, it's pretty fishy there, but who knows?
I'm just trusting and believing and having faith that what he says is true. I love him, so I want to just make him feel at home. Yeah. Walk around bringing any money. Darcey, I don't know how much money he has right now, so New York City adds up, so. Yeah, it's gonna be expensive, but I saved up for it, so. So far, Stacey spent a lot of money on Florian, from traveling to Albania all the time to paying for his flight to come to America.
So you just have to wonder what would be behind Darcey's motivation to tear down her sister, to start inserting different ideas that are seemingly purposefully trying to hurt her sister. Now, there's nothing wrong with Darcey being like, well, I'm really concerned about this Florian guy. He still lives with his parents. He hasn't had a steady job. I wonder what he's up to. It's another thing to say it the way that Darcey is saying it, which is in line with the frequent competition that they seem to exhibit. My hypothesis has been that this is total speculation, because this is usually the case with siblings that have this long-term pattern of competing with each other in this way, is that they weren't given enough love and attention for whatever reason. And they end up interpreting, if something's going well for my sibling, then I must be getting not enough love and attention. If my sibling is happy, then I must not be getting what I want, because that was historically true for them. When they were 3 years old, 8 years old, when their sibling was happy, it meant that their sibling was getting the love and attention that you've been so thirsty for. And so there's this heuristic of, if my sister is happy, then I must be getting ripped off somehow, and I'm angry, and I'm going to figure out some way of grasping. And one of the ways I'm going to do it is I'm going to make fun of my sister and bring her down, because she needs to understand that she's no better than me. And that, that can be another aspect of this, of just like, why is my sister getting more love than me? Does that mean I'm not a good person? Well, I have to advocate for myself, and I have to say, no, sister, you're no better than me. I'm just as good as you, and I'm going to tear you down, because how dare you believe that you're better than me? Now, I'm not hearing that exactly from Darcey, but I wonder what she would say if I were to throw this out to her.
I just really, truly want to believe that Darcey's doubts about Florian are wrong, because I love Florian and I want to live the rest of my life with him, and my dreams would be shattered if I don't marry Florian within this next 90 days. He came all the way here for me. Nobody's ever done that before. He's sacrificing for me, and that makes me feel special.
So it's totally normal to get emotional and cry, and to feel that sort of happy sad when you are recognizing that your partner loves you and is sacrificing for you. And it seems as though Stacey has revealing a similar pain that Darcey feels, which is, no one has ever really loved me enough. People have not treated me well in my life. Stacey seems to be exhibiting that. She doesn't usually, have her heart on her sleeve the way Darcey does, but in that moment, it kind of looked like Stacey has a similar pain inside of her that maybe she masks through trying to appear like the competent, responsible one in relation to Darcey. I don't know.
I just hope and pray everything goes good.
All right, well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle, in which I watched this TV show with Darcey and Stacey. Tune in next time when we continue with their journey, and please take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do.